all that confidence is pretty much fake, right? So, nevertheless, Cheney actually called Anthony Joshua and told him everything. So Anthony Joshua is aware of everything. And shout out to Blue Blood Sport TV because he the one that interviewed Nicholas Asbury. Shout out to Blue Blood Sport TV. Subscribe to my Aki as he's staying on Tyson Fury tail and exposing him for being the cheater of this century. Nevertheless, like I said, Anthony Joshua is already aware of Tyson Fury cheating. That's why Anthony Joshua was pretty much cool with Tyson Fury fighting Deontay Wilder the second time, and he was praying for Deontay Wilder's downfall because that power is his kryptonite. And he knew if Tyson Fury could pretty much pull this off and beat Deontay Wilder, then he free to make so much money in the UK overseas for the biggest fight of all time in the UK overseas, right?
Once again, this is Aki TV. He has led a crusade of different conspiracies. The Glovegate, he is, following the pack of channels that are in support of the Glovegate conspiracy. Now, this was his take on Anthony Joshua, and because this guy Cheney, the trainer of Nicholas Asbury, he supposedly called Anthony Joshua and told him about it. And again, because of what they are not aware of and what they didn't hear or hear a response from, which was Anthony Joshua, they pretty much said or assumed Anthony Joshua was cool with Tyson Fury not wearing the proper gloves. Okay? And they said that Anthony Joshua was, in fact, preying on Deontay Wilder's downfall so he wouldn't have to fight him, because they could put together the biggest fight in the UK with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Now, that is the theory of Aki, and let me counterpunch. First off, before I want to get into all these failed negotiations with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, let me make something quite apparent. Joshua was in America before he fought Andy Ruiz. And he went on record saying, hey, I want to sit down with Deontay Wilder. That's man to man. You know what I mean? Imagine you have a war. Imagine you are a leader of an army. And then instead of your armies fighting, you guys come together and say, hey, we're going to fight instead of our armies. We can save thousands of lives by just us fighting each other. Whoever the loser is takes the other side, wins. Winner takes all. Anthony Joshua was trying to have a sit down with Deontay Wilder face to face, just like Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather did when they got together. Remember that? Okay. And it's one of those situations where it could have worked. But why wasn't that a good idea for Deontay Wilder? Because right the day after that, okay, was it the same day or the day after? Because Joshua, again, was already in the States, okay? So we can't look at all the time difference, this, that, and the other. Okay, it depends on when whoever heard what. Look, Wilder has a lot of smart people behind him or around him. He has a lot of people that keep him in the loop of things. And he was well aware that AJ was looking for him to have a peace treaty. Hey, waving the white flag, let's talk. Let's converse, right? He all of a sudden, hey, I'm fighting Fury. Hey, I'm fighting Ortiz. Sorry, I'm fighting Ortiz, then I'm fighting Fury. Okay, he did that right away. He wasted no time. And then, the funny thing about that? Wilder didn't even sign a contract with Tyson Fury. So how in the hell you going to book two fights that you didn't even sign a contract for? Maybe that's your projection. But you had everyone thinking when you went on record saying, hey, I got two fights. I got Ortiz, which is a guy that I beat, which ain't fought no one else really. and people, talk about how old he is. Then you have Tyson Fury, which Tyson Fury went on record and said, "Hey, I didn't sign to fight. I didn't sign to face Deontay Wilder for a rematch, right?" So it's one of those situations where, how do you know that you actually had these two fights back to back? Yeah, you had Ortiz on ice. I get that. That's probably was more solid. But why would you push two fights back to back? That wasn't a mandatory. It wasn't a mandatory until crooked ass Mauricio made it a mandatory by Deontay Wilder or Dillian White doing what Dillian White was doing. Okay, so it was weird how that all went down just because Anthony Joshua said, "Hey, Deontay Wilder, come see me." Then, "Oh man, I got all this to do." But it's weird because you been saying how scared this guy was from the UK, this Brit. This big Brit. How scared, and he was a coward, and he lied to us, and his manager lied to us. But then this guy comes over here to your country, our country, and says, "Hey, I want to meet." Then I'll fuck that. No, I got this to do. I'm doing this. And now we know you're lying because Tyson Fury didn't say he was going to fight you. He didn't sign to fight you. There was no record of him saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to fight Deontay Wilder." He didn't say that. He said, "No, I'm not doing that." Because they already had failed attempts earlier that year. Remember that? Okay? This is after the $100 million deal that Wilder passed up. This is after all that. That's a backstory, people. Now come back, fast forward to present time with Aki, right? And he's saying, "Oh, Joshua was praying for Wilder's downfall." Well, I don't think he was praying for his downfall. I think what Anthony Joshua was doing, he was hoping that Tyson Fury wins because all the freaking failed attempts that they had before. The man don't want to sit down and talk to me. The man don't want to look at none of the contracts that my promoter, which works for me, Eddie Hearn, sent you guys in your team. So nobody can seem to get on the right page, but all you do is talk. All they did was talk. So after everything, what's better, a sit down or a talk? What's more productive? Someone looking at me man to man, eye to eye. "Hey, what do you got to say about all the shit you were saying?" Forget all that. It's business, right? Cool. They didn't want to do business. Okay, so how can Aki say, "Hey, yeah, he was praying for his downfall because he knows that he was cheating"? Dude, don't try to tie that shit into what Anthony Joshua was praying for or hoping for. The only thing the man wanted to do was give Deontay Wilder an opportunity to get his damn WBC belt. You know what I mean? Now, the fighting alone and by itself is a totally different story. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how the negotiations were of actually getting the fight done. They were failed. And everyone knows my take on that. I've broke that down too many times. But to say some disrespectful shit like, "Oh, Joshua was praying for his downfall," yeah, he probably was waiting for something else new to happen. And something new did happen. Wilder lost. He lost. He lost, people. Let it go. He lost to Fury. This glove gate had to be created to save face because Wilder got his ass whooped and nobody can explain why, so you have to create reasons why. I get it. But don't say what some other man said and what some other man was praying for when that same man was trying to make negotiations from 18. This has been 2 freaking years, people. And this man didn't want to budge because he thought he was worth more money. That's what it was about, I think. Either that or Shelly Finkel secretly didn't want him to fight Anthony Joshua because he's seen what Anthony Joshua did to his fighter, Vladimir Klitschko. And he didn't want him fighting Vladimir. Let's not go there, though. Let's not go there. Don't open that can up. Right? Too late. But him thinking that Joshua was scared or Joshua was hoping that Wilder lost. I don't know if he was praying on someone's downfall, but something else happened. And now what's going on? What is everybody talking about to this day? Joshua Fury. Okay? And these guys have more fights, but how did these motherfuckers agree to fight already? Think about what I'm saying. These guys have agreed to terms already. So that tells you something. Okay? You remember, babe, let's go back to 18, how Wilder and Fury, how it's supposed to took so quick a time to get that fight done. And then what they were trying to do is compare it to negotiations and how difficult it was for Anthony Joshua to, you know, and his team to make terms with Wilder's team and come together and fight. Remember that? Okay. They were trying to make that scenario, which it took about 6 weeks, 7 weeks to actually get the fight done, right? But in this case, now Fury has made a quicker fight with a fighter that he has another fight before that fighter. So he has a fight in advance. And they've already agreed to terms. So what does that tell you? First of all, it tells you that you could have agreed to Anthony Joshua after you beat Fury, but you didn't beat Fury. You could have agreed after you beat Luis Ortiz, but you didn't beat Luis Ortiz. How can these two men already have and put together and decide to fight, right? Sign to fight, agree to fight, and they already got fights before them, and you couldn't do it? Counterpunch. Something to think about. How is Tyson Fury so able to get a fight that quick with Anthony Joshua? Well, obviously so. Obviously, this was the best thing that could happen for boxing because Wilder did not want that fight. So before he says, oh, he was preying on Wilder's downfall, I don't think he was. So don't put words in the man's mouth. I don't think the man preyed on Wilder's downfall because if Wilder prevailed, he would have been that guy in that seat. But you know what I think, and I believe this. If Wilder would have beat Fury, we still would have been looking at that damn fight or negotiations failed and shit talk back and forth, and there would have been no agreed upon fight between those two guys, Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. That's my counterpunch on that. You guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.